Once upon a time, in a small rural community called Abamgi, lived a man called Nduka. Nduka was a very wealthy man. He was the second wealthiest man after the head of Abamgi community. Nduka deals on the sale of carvings. His carvings were so unique and well crafted, and are usually so rare, that people wondered how skillful his mind and hands were. Nduka was not originally from Abamgi. He was from a small village called Iki, which was several kilometers away from Abamgi community. And before he moved to Abamgi, he only traveled through it to go sell his carvings to white merchants in a town called Rivers Town. These white merchants are usually at the Rivers seaports in Rivers Town and bought carvings from Nduka in exchange for their foreign currency. This was how Nduka made his money and became rich. He decided to move to Abamgi so he wouldn't have to keep traveling long distances to get to his foreign clients, and because Abamgi was more bigger and developed than Iki, his own village. And though Nduka had only been in Abamgi for only a period of 3 years, he was already so well known and had gained so much influence. Nduka was a generous man who freely gave and helped those around him who were in need. Nduka was also a widower. His wife had died years ago, but he has a daughter whose name was Ego. Ego was so beautiful. She was considered the most beautiful girl in Abamgi community and the environs. Though she was quite young and was not up to the age of 18, added to her so beautiful face was her tall figure and her beautiful curves, just like that of a fully mature woman. Ego was only 16 years old, but so many young unmarried men were already trooping into her father's compound day after day to ask for her hand in marriage. Even a few married men who hoped that they could have Ego as their second or third wife, as the case may be, also sought for her hand in marriage. My daughter is still young, oh. When she is older, I would accept a suitor for her, Nduka told these men who constantly came to him to request for Ego's hand in marriage. These men came along with many gifts to impress Nduka and Ego, even when they knew he was already wealthy and could very much afford the items they brought. I am willing to wait, sir. Just give me your word that you would consider me for your daughter when she's old and ready, most of the men said to Nduka. A few of these men already had betrothals whom they had made commitments to marry. However, when Nduka moved to the community and they set their eyes on Ego, they changed their minds about their betrothals and started pursuing Ego. One of such men was Jideofor, who was going to marry his betrothal, Chinwe, in just a few days before Nduka had moved to Abamgi and he saw Nduka's daughter, Ego. He was so captivated by Ego's beauty that he called off his engagement to Chinwe and started pursuing Ego. For 3 years, Jideofor sought Ego's hand in marriage without relenting. Now, Nduka, I am ready to wait for as long as it would take for me to have your daughter as my wife, Jideofor kept telling Nduka. He visited Nduka's compound often and offered gifts of bushmeats, wrappers, and expensive coral beads. He was the most active suitor And finally one day, just few days to when Ego would be 17, Nduka accepted Jideofor for him to marry his daughter. Ego, though physically mature, was a very quiet and timid girl. She obeyed her father and does not question any decision he made concerning her. So, she accepted his decision to make her Jideofor's wife. Jideofor was elated. He announced to everyone and boasted about how he was the one who had finally won the daughter of the second richest man and most beautiful maiden in the community. He referred to himself as a victor who succeeded amongst Ego's numerous suitors at winning her hand in marriage. And because he was also doing okay himself, he left no stone unturned and ensured that his marriage ceremony with Ego was loud and elaborate. One day, Jideofor was on his way back from the town of Rivers, where he had gone to do business, when he met with an unfortunate accident. Two rivalry market hoodlum groups in one of the villages had a serious clash. The driver of the vehicle Jideofor had boarded had not known about this clash and had taken that route. When he got closer to the scene, he tried to reverse back, but it was too late as the route had been blocked. Their vehicle and about two other ones was stuck at the scene. These hoodlums got to where Jideofor and the others were, and they vandalized and beat up everyone in the vehicles. All the passengers in the vehicle Jideofor was, and even in the other ones, all sustained serious injuries. When everywhere was calm and the chaos had stopped, the injured victims were taken to different healing homes by passers-by and some good villagers. Well, every other injured person in that vehicle survived except Jideofor, who died as a result of internal bleeding. This incident was just 3 months after his marriage to Ego, and so Ego became a widow just 3 months after her marriage. Now, one would have thought that the unmarried men in Abamgi would at the very least pretend to sympathize with Ego and give her time to mourn her late husband Jideofor. But it seemed as though Jideofor's death was good fortune to them. So, just barely a month after Jideofor's death, many suitors started disturbing Nduka again for his daughter's hand in marriage. Maybe the gods did not support the union between Ego and Jideofor, and that was why they removed Jideofor from the way to allow a more deserving man to have her. Many of these suitors said when they were advised by their friends and family, who believed that it was too sudden to start pursuing a woman who had just become a widow. For months, Nduka received many suitors again, who kept asking for his daughter's hand in marriage. The majority of them promised to give Nduka double and even triple the amounts of money Jideofor had paid as dowry for Ego, so he would return the dowry to Jideofor's family, and so they would have Ego as their bride. And in the 7th month after Jideofor's death, Nduka finally gave in and accepted another suitor for his daughter. The name of this second one was Ikenna. And just as with Jideofor, Ikenna had an elaborate wedding ceremony with Ego. However, 5 months into their marriage, Ikenna also died. He was found dead in the hut of his old secret lover. Ikenna had been in love with an old widow called Nkechi. Nkechi was a woman in her late 40s who was married to her late husband for 16 years before his death. Somehow, Ikenna and Nkechi fell in love with each other. But because the age difference between them would cause gossip in the community, and especially will be met with unacceptance from Ikenna's family, they hid their affair from everyone. And though Ikenna found Ego attractive and wanted her like the other unmarried men, he still found himself going to Nkechi after his marriage to Ego. That afternoon, Ikenna had secretly met with Nkechi on his way back from inspecting his farm. And after they had made love as usual, Ikenna decided to take a short nap but never woke up. And though Nkechi tried to cover up his death because she got scared when Ikenna did not wake up, she was exposed by her late husband's cousin, who had long been suspicious of her and Ikenna, and had secretly followed Ikenna that day when she saw him heading towards Nkechi's house. Nkechi was arrested by the head of the village guard at the order of the village's head and was locked in the palace cell. So, in less than 18 months, Ego had married and lost 2 husbands and had become a widow twice. Everyone in Abamgi sympathized with her, and some called her unlucky. Maybe her beauty came with hard luck, some others said. Now, the people of Abamgi believed and were only aware of the 2 husbands Ego had lost. What they did not know was that Ego had been previously married to 2 men in the past, and those men had also died prematurely, just like Jidiofor and Ikenna. Nduka had not always been this rich. Some few years ago, he had been so poor back at his village in Iki and had lived in penury. Nduka and his late wife had brought 3 children, 2 daughters and a son. Ego was the first daughter and also the first child. However, Nduka had lost his second daughter and child when she fell terribly ill and he could not afford to buy the medicines the healers had asked him to buy. Nduka's wife grieved for a long time over the death of her child, and because of this also fell ill and died weeks later. It had took Nduka and his wife 11 years after the birth of their second child before they had their son. So, at the time Nduka's wife and second daughter died, their son was only 2 years old. And when Nduka's wife died, their young son cried daily for his mother and soon also fell ill. Nduka had sought help from people to loan him money to treat his sick wife before his wife's death, but nobody was willing and had offered him help. As a matter of fact, one rich man, a middle-aged chief, had requested that Nduka give him Ego's hand in marriage as his third wife before he would help Nduka with money, but Nduka had refused. However, when his son became sick for weeks, Nduka, who could not bear to lose his only son, released Ego to the old chief as the chief's third wife. At that time, Ego was only 14 years old then. However, after the marriage rites were completed and the chief finally gave Nduka the money he had sought, Nduka's son also died, leaving Nduka so heartbroken. Well, the chief also died 3 months after then. Nduka used the money the chief had given him to start his carving business, since his son did not survive. Ego was tagged a young widow after the chief's death. But a year later, another man asked for Ego's hand in marriage for his son who was in the city. The man's son was asthmatic. So, on his way back to the city after the dowry payments, he suffered an asthma attack and also died, making Ego a widow for the second time. Nduka and his daughter, his only surviving family, moved to Abamgi a year after that, and Nduka asked Ego not to mention anything about her past marriages to anyone in Abamgi. But now, after the premature deaths of Jideofor and Ikenna, Ego became worried about the premature deaths of all 4 men she had gotten married to, just barely few months after being married to them. And since it was only her father who knew that they were up to 4, she told her father about her worries. Nduka, however, asked his daughter not to worry or think about it. Though prematurely, the cause of their deaths were unnatural, except for Ikenna, who died in the hands of another woman. Nduka told Ego and asked her to completely forget about it. Well, a year later, some men still sought to marry Ego despite all that happened, though the rush was not like it was in the first two. Nduka, like the other times, picked a man for Ego to marry again. However, this time, Ego was more mature and refused to marry again, for fear that any man she marries again may die prematurely. "I will never marry again," she told her father. And for many months, Nduka tried to convince his daughter otherwise, but she bluntly refused this time, and nothing he did could make her change her mind. After all, she had never loved nor liked any of these men, and the ones she married, she did because she wanted to please her father. Well, a year later, a certain man called Onyekachi moved to Abamgi community. Onyekachi was a missionary doctor on a medical outreach by a mission church, and this was how he met Ego. They started just as platonic friends, but as the months progressed, they developed a strong attraction for each other. Onyekachi became the only man Ego came to truly love. However, when Onyekachi asked Ego to marry him, she did not say yes, as she was scared that if truly she was unfortunate, as some of the villagers think, then Onyekachi may also die just like her other 4 husbands. For weeks, she avoided him and stayed away from him until one day when Onyekachi stopped her and demanded that she gives him an answer. "Is it because of the death of your previous husbands?" Onyekachi asked Ego. Ego, knowing that there was no way Onyekachi wouldn't have heard in all this while, though she had not mentioned it herself, slowly nodded her head. Then Onyekachi revealed to Ego that he had a dream where he saw an unknown person placing a sword in Ego's hand and wielding the sword through Ego's hand to kill men. Onyekachi told Ego that the face of the person was blood, so he could not tell who that was. He handed to Ego a bottle of water which he said was an holy water, and asked Ego to sprinkle it all over her house while she prayed, saying, "Let every hidden secret be exposed in Jesus' name." Ego accepted the bottle of water from Onyekachi and did as instructed that evening. She bathed with it and later sprinkled the remaining one all over the house. And while she sprinkled the water and said the words Onyekachi asked her to say, Nduka rushed out of his room suddenly, screaming, "Stop it! Stop, please!" and fell to the ground. Nduka confessed to his daughter that he was responsible for the death of her 4 husbands. He revealed that he was angry that the people in his village had refused to help him when he went to them for help to treat his wife and his sick daughter and son. So, after the death of his son, he was so pained that he went to a juju man to help him become rich. The juju man gave him a charm and instructed him that he used ego as the means to sacrifice 6 men within a period of 7 years. Nduka revealed that the dowry the men paid to marry ego were offered to the juju deity and used as exchange for their life within 6 months period when they marry ego. He went further to reveal that the men he accepted for them to marry ego, he secretly carefully investigated and confirmed that they had a blemish, a flaw or condition, so that when the juju kills them, it will seem like a natural occurrence. Like the chief, who was already a bit old, the second husband, who was asthmatic and was believed to have died as a result of an asthma attack, Jideofor, who constantly traveled to do business and was met with an accident, and Ikenna, who was secretly involved with a mature widow and died in her hut. He confessed that the carvings he sold to the foreign merchants, he didn't really make them, but were given to him by the juju deity every month from the blood of the dead men as a channel for his wealth. And this was why his carvings were uniquely designed and were rare. He begged Ego to stop sprinkling the water and said that he needed to sacrifice 2 more husbands she would marry within the next 18 months so that his wealth would remain everlasting. Ego was shocked by her father's confession, as she could not believe that her father had been using her as a tool to make evil money. And though she was scared, she kept muttering these words, "Oh Lord, save me! Oh Lord, save me!" And minutes later, Nduka fell to the ground and went mute. He was dead. Well, the people of Abamgi didn't get to know about Nduka's evil because only his daughter heard his confession, which she later related to Onyekachi. Months later, Onyekachi and Ego got married. To the people of Abamgi, he was her 3rd husband, but Ego knew that Onyekachi was not her 3rd husband but the 5th one. She was so young, barely up to 20, but had been married 5 times. As the months progressed, and even with her father dead, Ego had fears and hoped that what happened with her other 4 husbands would not happen to Onyekachi. Well, Onyekachi lived and did not die. Ego and Onyekachi had children and lived till this day. The end. I hope you enjoyed this story. Please give it a like and share. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in my next story. Bye.